All right, so welcome everyone. This is Mozsta69 and my main man Fortis85 in our first, if you like, podcast or stream on our journey through a new tabletop role-playing system that we're going to attempt to play called Starfinder, which is kind of it's a version of Pathfinder, but obviously set in the future. It's, I suppose, cyberpunky or Star Warsy or you know, that type of futuristic role-playing game, which I myself have never played. I've always sort of dungeon mastered and played old school like fantasy worlds like Forgotten Realms or Middle Earth or Rolemaster. I've never actually played games where you fly spaceships and shoot at each other with laser guns and stuff. So I'm really excited to embark on this journey with Fortis. And it's going to be a little bit different because unlike other streams, Fortis is going to be the only character playing. So he's going to be a one-man band, and I'm the world, and he's the one-man band. So what we're going to do is, I haven't finished reading the book yet, Fortis. I'm not sure if you have, but I haven't finished reading the whole rule book, to be frank. I'm about, I don't know, I think I'm about a third of the way through.
Yeah, well, it's like 547 pages big, because in Starfinder, they don't just give you like a DM guide and an adventurers module and this and that. They give you everything all in one. So it's a monster manual, it's a, you know,
yeah.
It's a DM manual, it's everything, it's lore, everything in this one huge book, and it looks pretty full on, to say the least. So it's all good, man.
Yeah.
I'm probably about halfway through, so 3/4 of the way through, but then I feel like because it is so big, we're going to have to go over some of the stuff again anyway, so it's not the end of the world, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll be definitely making mistakes as a dungeon master. I have no doubt about that. Until we get into our groove, and it does seem more complex than D&D 5th edition, but
yeah, it looks crazy more complex, but I think with that there'll be a whole lot more customization. Customization, I should say, and then I think as well, when it starts getting into the mechanics, I think there's going to be a richer world of gameplay as far as, you know, everything from your hit points to your recovery points to how you move. I mean, even just reading a little bit about it, there's two types of like armor classes. There's like kinetic energy, and then there's the the laser energy, and then it's crazy. At some stage, but
yeah, that's right. There's two different types of armor class. There's movement, the movement and stuff. Yeah, there's well, not recovery point. What's it called? It's a very important thing. It's resolve points. Resolve points is like huge. I don't know anything about it yet, but it seems to be a very important part of your character. How many resolve points you have.
Well, so basically you get hit points, stamina points, and resolve points, and so the resolve points are used to help you regain some of your hit points and your stamina points, and I think there's like many other different things to do it. I think it's going to be pretty crazy, man. The mechanics are deep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go through the journey with these streams and these podcasts, or whatever you want to call them, through, first of all, just talking about like the big ticket items in creating your character. So today's stream will be focused on talking about themes. So we're going to go through all the different themes and just give our opinions on them, what we think they mean in regards to role playing and character building and things like that, and if they have any impact on how we role play or not, or things like that. So from what I can tell, and please feel free to jump in, Fortis, at any time, there seems to be, besides your base statistics, which seem pretty similar to D&D, like strength, constitution, dexterity, yada yada yada, there seems to be like three major building blocks to your character. One of them is obviously the race that you choose. The other one is your class, And finally, you choose a theme. And let's start off with where you think a theme is for us. I'll give you my opinion first. Like, let's say I'm an accountant. So I say my accountant is... Being an accountant is my class, right?
I think you chose like the most boring profession in the world, but it's look. You're the accountant for the accountant firm.
Yeah. So being an accountant is my class, but you can be an accountant for a mafia, right? Or you can be an accountant for a corporation. So the way I view theme is really almost what you're going to role play is the essence of your character and the background of your character, equivalent to backgrounds, I suppose, in D&D. So, your class could be an accountant, but if you were an accountant for the mafia, maybe your theme is criminal. That's your theme. So that's kind of where I see. I think it's going to impact my role playing of my character more so than the mechanics, which might be, related to the class. So that's where I see the theme. Yourself, what's your view on themes? Are they going to have an impact on you, or?
Well, for me, right, I originally likened when I was kind of starting through this, because look, I've only been playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for a couple of years now, with yourself and obviously a few of the other guys, but I liken the themes to more like your traits, and because we don't have, or it doesn't seem like there is traits per se in this particular Starfinder, world, I think they do it. So getting a little bit technical, your themes represent maybe like an element of your background and whether or not it's part of your upbringing, whether it's your training or your destiny. So kind of tying into what you were saying. But I reckon, it sounds quite interesting, because one thing I'm picking up from this as I'm reading through the rule book, especially from a themes point of view, is that whether, doesn't matter what type of class you are, doesn't matter what type of person or what type of, things you have, you can put your theme, kind of like what you said, using your accountant for the mafia thing, personality. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be pretty interesting that you can really build that mechanic out to kind of tie in, and that you're not limited to, say, for example, if you're, one of my D&D characters was a barbarian, but then I also had like an artisan thing.
Yeah, a glass blower.
Yeah, glass blower. That's right.
It
really, it kind of did, it was hilarious, but I feel like having these things will make it a bit more natural.
Yeah.
Which, and that will tie in with your race and your class, I think, as well. So, yeah.
So we're gonna choose a theme for our characters, and we're gonna choose a class for our characters. Would you say that you would what's gonna sit in your mind when you're kind of role playing your character out? Is it the theme, or are you gonna be, is the class, let's say you're a mechanic priest, for example. So what's gonna impact the way that you express yourself as a character in the game? Or is it a mixture of both? Could be a mixture of both.
Well, for me, I think I am very much a story-driven person, and I kind of like to go a bit outside of the square. And I think sometimes it's when I play, D&D, and I'm probably going to reference D&D a lot because it's kind of like I'm almost looking at it as a comparison to a 5e edition versus what this is. And
we will be comparing a lot of this with D&D, so that's fine, man.
Yeah, so I feel like for me, it's a bit of a mixture of, your traits, or what was your traits, and, now what looks like to be your themes. And then I suppose if I do that, if I build my backstory, I probably want to write a little bit about what my backstory was. And then, it doesn't look like you have inspiration in this game, so I don't know if it's going to be like if I play it out that way. But then I feel like, so for example, if I was an orphan boy, and then, I didn't have trust issues, or I had trust issues, that would kind of build into my character, and that makes sense. Whereas if I tried to do it a different way, it might not. So yeah, like I think I'll be playing a mixture of both.
Yeah, I think for me, especially because I'm going to have a character made, even though I'm the dungeon master, so I don't have the brain power to constantly roleplay my character while I'm trying to run things. So for me, themes make it easier. I think for me anyway, I'm going to be latching on to whatever theme I choose is going to be predominantly what my character's like, kind of wishes and dreams and background kind of all tie into. So it keeps it quite easy for me to have a framework to role play my character in, and then I think tactically it'll be obviously your class, because all the skills and perks and all that stuff kind of ties in with my class. But it won't be 100% just my theme. If I'm a mechanic and stuff, I will, it's going to, it'll be probably like 70-30. 70% will be my theme, 30% will be my mechanic. So all right, let's go through the different themes, and then by the end of the stream, Jocko, we're not reneging on any of this stuff. You got to choose a theme for your character, and we're writing it down, and it shall not change. Is that agreed?
I'm down with that, mate. I'm down with that.
Because we are not just doing this and reading the book. We're gonna, make our decisions, and ultimately we're gonna make a character as well. So, these are not just us talking. It's actually deciding and committing to a build for a character.
I'm all about that, and to quote some Starship Troopers, to understand the bug, to defeat the bug, we must understand the bug. Pretty much what we're going to do. So.
All right, man. So again, just to reiterate, it's like, again, we're not experts, guys, but it seems like in Starfinder there's three major building blocks to creating character: your race, your class, and a theme for your character. So I'm just going to read. We've got the rule book in the background. I'm just going to quickly read. What Paizo's definition of the theme is, and yep.
Just before you get into that, right? So I suppose for everyone, there seems like there is 10 themes, and 9 of the themes, as an overview, seem to be very, pointed and direct and actually relate to, whether it's a pilot or something else. But there is actually the last one, and Jaco, I'd love to be able to kind of really touch on that one when we get to it, called Themeless. Which will be pretty interesting, because when I was reading through it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And there is a part in the book that actually points out that it's not great to do themeless, but you can do it. But then they they basically say, hey, if you're not powerful, mate, if you're not going to go a theme, you're not going to be as powerful. So you better be, really into what you're doing. So it's going to be interesting if you decide to do it. For example, if I decide to do it, what that will mean for the game, and versus the one with the themes. And maybe later on down the track, we could, look at a comparison between a themeless and a theme at some stage. But
no, very good point, man. That is an interesting hand quote theme by itself, the themeless one. It's great that they've allowed for that, and it'll be interesting to see what disadvantage it gives you actually. But it's a very nice addition, I think, that gives you the flexibility of not pigeonholing yourself into one of these boxes. So let me just read the introduction. So you sit back, relax, and listen in, Fortis, and make your decision, because your character is way more important than mine, because it is the only character that we'll be playing in our streams going forward. So
are you going to stop after each paragraph and we'll have a bit of a chat, or do you want to go through it all and then? No,
just paragraph. I don't want this just to be me reading a whole bunch of stuff, but there will be a lot of me.
Man, you'll need a sweeter voice if that's going to be the case.
Thank you. I can always get my voice changer happening and make it demonic, but
No, that's it. I like it.
All right, character themes. So a character theme represents a focus for your character, which may be a result of your background, your upbringing, your training, or your mystic destiny. you select a character theme at first level, gaining special benefits that reflect major aspects of that theme at first level, 6th level, 12th, and 18th level. All abilities are extraordinary abilities, unless otherwise noted. With your GM's permission, you can even create your own theme that fits your character concept perfectly. So, your theme represents a focus for your character, which may be a result of your background, your upbringing, your training, or your mystic destiny. It's kind of along the lines of what we were talking about, I suppose. I don't have much more to add, except that things to note are that you get something from your theme at the 1st, 6th, 12th, and 18th levels as well. So once...
And it looks like you get a +1 modifier depending on what it is.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's not... It's quite active, but it's not as active as your class, obviously. So every 6 levels, which is a lot, I think, you know, where we've been playing D&D for a while and we're like level 4, every 6 levels, you get something, which we'll go into later on. All right, so I'm just scrolling through. So here are the 10 themes that we're going to go through. I might come back to the themeless character. It's actually got a little paragraph here, so just remind me, Jocko, to come back. So let's start off with the first theme, the Ace Pilots. And I want you to give me one sci-fi character that this reminds you of, Jocko, these themes, if you can, right? So the Ace Pilot. So I'm just going to read the top paragraph and description of it. So you are most comfortable at the controls of a vehicle. Whether it's a vehicle, as the Americans say, whether it's a starship racing through the inky void of space or a ground vehicle zooming between trees, around boulders and across dusty badlands, you might be a member of an elite military force, the recipient of intense courses of training. Alternatively, you might be a total amateur, but with an innate skill that makes you a much admired hotshot. So lots of flexibility there. You could be military, you could just have natural talents, you could just have attended training courses. It's good that it's like starships and ground vehicles as well. So it's like any vehicle, which is nice and broad and good. And you get a +1 to dexterity. So let me ask you a question. So you know that these themes give you plus something to a stat, right? And I think your class or something and your race will give you +1 to stats, right? Are you going to like be super focused and pick? Are you going to build your character based on these things, or are you going to build your character based on closing your eyes and imagining something, not at all looking at these things? So three things. Let me finish. Are you going to build your character based on focusing on trying to maximize, like your dexterity, for example, or something, right? Or are you going to totally be away with these rules and close your eyes and just imagine something, your ideal character, no matter what it is? Or third, are you going to build a character that's more spread out, like you choose your class, but then you choose something else to boost another stat, for example, instead of just stacking on the same stat, you sort of a jack of all trades type thing. How are you doing it?
I think for me, I would like to say I would go solely imagination, but then I suppose there is a bit of a logical and analytical side to me where I need to be able to, flesh things out a little bit. So I feel like I will probably, based on what character I choose after we kind of go through, or at least what type of theme it is, that I'll start to build on it from there, and I might be a little bit systematical. So for example, if you're like a pilot and then you need good reflexes, I'll be more inclined to put some extra points into the reflexes to help me along my way, and then in that way I'll be able to role play a bit better into that element. So if I use Han Solo, for example, he's a bit brash cavalier, he's got that bit of a jack of all trades type thing, and then if I start to I might not necessarily use him as a basis, but I was choosing but you know, it will, for me, I'll kind of like, oh yeah, that, you know, there seems to be how there'll be an attitude that will come along with whatever I decide to do. So for example, if I was like, you know, an outlaw or something else like that, you would find that that is, you know, probably put me into a bit of a different, I probably would try and align my stats a bit more as to what I think that would mean and what type of perks I may or may not get during the game.
Yeah, sure. And are you so +1 to dexterity for an ace pilot? So to me that means all reflexes, reaction time. That's is that would you agree with that? That's kind of makes sense.
I would say so. Yeah. That sounds like where it'd be at.
Yeah, I mean, me, when I tried to do my flying, like, I know you can't give a buff to more than, you know, they only want to give a buff to one stat, but intelligence seems like a very good thing for a pilot to have. But obviously, you know, you can't have +1 to dexterity and intelligence and this, that, and the other. So I totally get it. It's I suppose it's better to have faster reactions, I suppose, in some way. But yeah, that makes sense. So you get a +1 to dexterity as an ace pilot. So as we see here, you know, at first level you get something from your theme, then at 6th level you get something from your theme, at 12th level, and at 18th level as well. And that's essentially all the theme does. It gives you a framework for you know, for the background of your character, or the upbringing of your character, or the training that you've had. And then at first level, and I think this is the same across all the themes, so at first level you just start off with the theme knowledge. So you start off with, you know, the information or the training that you've had, or the experience that you've had. And most of these themes give you, actually all of them give you this theme knowledge, and they give you I think all of them give you a -5. Yeah, they reduce the difficulty challenge of certain checks by 5. I think that's the same across all the themes. I could be wrong. So let's read about the theme knowledge for the pilot. So you're obsessed with starships and vehicles, and you've got committed to memory almost every related tidbit of knowledge you've ever come across. So reduce the difficulty challenge of culture checks to recall knowledge about starship and vehicle models and parts, as well as famous hotshot pilots, by 5. Piloting is a class skill for you, though if it is a class skill from the class you take at first level, you instead gain a +1 to your piloting checks. In addition, you get +1 dexterity. So essentially, as a pilot at level 1, you have a great chance of recalling knowledge about different vehicles and stuff.
So, you know what's quite interesting here, right? Because in theory, when you reach like level 3 in D&D with a character, you get traits. And like, so for example, I think when I was like being a half-orc, I could be like, you know, I think a beast master, or I could be like you know, a particular, like a two-handed fighter. And it seems like there's just, with the themes, and I don't know if there'll be another element to all this, but then this seems like, hey, this is just what you are. So for example, for your first level, your theme knowledge, awesome, and then that's all it is. So you really, it's kind of telling you to focus on that, and that's what it is, unless there is something else as we go along, and then they say, well, maybe you will be able to do, instead of having theme knowledge or the second one alone wolf, you might have something else. So it'll be interesting to see if it does divert out that way, or if it just all comes back to this theme.
Yeah, I think the classes, Jocko, you'll see will have like a forked road at some point, I think. But we'll learn about that. Hey, Tiny Rick. Tiny Rick likes your beard.
Thank you. It used to be a bit bigger, but not.
So yeah, at first knowledge you get this theme knowledge. So essentially, I'm just trying to see that when we role play, you know, I suppose when you're running around and you know, I don't know, I'm thinking like moments of urgency where we're running around and you get into a hangar and we're escaping, you know, and there's these ships in the hangar. We'll be like, you know, we got to choose one that's the fastest or something to escape in, right? So you roll the dice.
Or you know how to fly it, because there's no point if you've just been in speeders, you know, for the whole time, and then you jump into like a mining vessel or something and it's got like different controls. It'll be interesting to see, like, if you have to do a knowledge check and you have to roll a d20, or it'll be, hey, naturally you know where the on button is because you've got this theme knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could come in handy more often than not, but
Well, I think it will, because there is two types of, I suppose, fighting as far as I'm aware in this, and then there's quite a lot of spaceship parts to this game, and given that you are in space and that you are doing it, you'd almost want to have at least one member of your group having that, because if you don't, you might have to, like, you know, hire
call Uber.
Yeah, call it Uber, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see, if you don't have one, what you would end up like, or if you just end up being stranded on a planet or something like that, or, you know, a space station or something, and kind of crazy.
At 6th level, you get the Lone Wolf, which is, you know, at least a little bit about handling every role on a starship, and you can sub in for certain tasks in a pinch. Whenever you need to attempt a skill check, either during starship combat or to directly repair or otherwise maintain your starship, you can treat half your ranks in piloting as your ranks in the appropriate skill for the check. It would be better. If that would be better. Sorry, I misread that. So essentially, I assume, again, I haven't read all the rules, there's going to be a whole bunch of sort of skills in relation to starship stuff, engineering, repairing, yada, yada, yada. This Lone Wolf allows you to add however many ranks you have in your piloting as instead of those skills. So it makes you a lone wolf. Imagine a guy on a ship that needs a crew, right? It needs an engineer, it needs a this, it needs a that, you know, to maintain it. This lone wolf allows you to pilot the thing, run, fix the thing, run, you know, do this, do some navigation, do some engineering, like a one-man crew almost.
So with that, that's kind of cool, because like at the end of the day, if you end up like losing your ship and you need to get on another ship, and you can say, hey, you know, if you don't have a mechanic, I can do that for a while if I need to get from point A to B. So again, if you don't have a ship and you are a pilot and you've got this lone wolf thing, I can't imagine you would start off with a huge ship at this particular time. So it will be quite interesting to see, even if you do get that side of things.
So you can treat half your ranks in piloting as your ranks in the appropriate skill for the check, if that would be better. So you might actually have ranks in that other skill that are higher. This would not come into play. But if you had ranks that were lower than your piloting skill, then would come to play. At 12th level, you get the need for speed. So speeding in a vehicle gives you a heady rush, and you can easily handle operating vehicles at high velocities that might send lesser pilots spinning out of control. So reduce, again, we don't know anything about the rules yet, guys, so this won't make much sense, but it'll give us an idea of what's going on. So reduce any penalties to piloting checks you make when on a vehicle by 1. So I don't really know what weight 1 is. When you take the double maneuver action during a vehicle chase, I think, Jacko, double maneuver might be like the dash action in D&D. You reduce the penalty for each action by 1. When a piloting check has a penalty for failing by 5 or more, you take that penalty only if you fail by 10 or more. So it gives you more room for error, really. So you can just go faster. You can you know, do your double maneuver with a penalty of 1 or whatever. So I think it's a little bit self-explanatory, but yeah, you can push the limits of that said spaceship is how I take that. All right, so that's 12th level, so you're maneuvering, and then the last perk you get for this theme at 18th level is the Master Pilot, and I found this to be the case with all the themes. Not knowing much about the system, Jacob, this is where resolve points seem to be very fucking important, because at 18th level, this is how I don't exactly know what resolve points do, except when I was reading the themes, I was like, holy shit, resolve points must be extremely valuable, because at 18th level for every theme, it has something to do with you can recover a resolve point, or you can, use an extra resolve point or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's at 18th level. Like, who's going to survive to 18th level? I have no fucking idea. But let's just have a read of Master Pilot. So your piloting accomplishments invigorate you, giving you renewed purpose and zeal. Up to twice a day, when you defeat a significant foe in starship combat as a pilot, or succeed in a vehicle chase, meaning that you've either escaped a pursuer or caught or defeated an opponent, you recover 1 resolve point. So, I mean, if you think about that for a sec, chapter 18, level 18 you got to get to. And then you got to kill someone in space. And if you
do you think a significant foe is something that you will decide, or that the book will decide?
No, that's definitely a Dungeon Master thing. There's nothing that's going to say category significant, category insignificant.
But this might be another situation where we could compare it to D&D, right? Because, so for example, I know that a mud crab in D&D isn't a significant foe, or just like something.
They are in fucking Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, well, but if we look at like a rat in D&D, that's not a significant, foe. But if you look at Rat King, that's the swarm of rats. That's a significant threat. So you being the dungeon master, you can kind of go, they might be docile, but to me, that's still a significant foe. So, do you still agree with what you just said, or do you think maybe there is some difference there?
You know me, man, I got a bit of an engineering mind, so I would keep it to something simple and clear cut where I could explain myself to players, right? Because I always envisage getting questions, especially with you, you play a great devil's advocate, right? So I always, when I come to a decision, I'm like, can I explain this clearly to players so that they get a sense of fairness, right? So for example, if it was a significant foe, I would come up with a rule of, it has to be like, I don't know yet, because I don't know the difficulty of this game, but just as an example, it would have to be like, 4 levels higher than me.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? It's easy to explain, it's fair, it's not all wishy-washy, or maybe it could even be the same level as me, but it's like it ends an adventure, or it makes significant progress in the story. You know what I mean? Like it moves the story to the next phase type thing. There might be situations where it's statistically not a lot more powerful than me, but it's key to the story. Like maybe it's a stealth ship, or I'm just coming up with whatever now, but maybe it's a stealth ship that's extremely well hidden, and I use my radar skills or whatever to find it, and then destroying it was the easy part, right? But finding it was hard part, and also on top of that, it moves the story forward type thing. That's significant. So anything significant in the story, if it's not significant in the story and it's just an encounter, then I would look at the statistics and say, is it maybe the same level as me or higher or something like that. So not lower level than me, for example. So that's the ace pilot. So moving on to the second one, we've got the bounty hunter. So you track people down for money. It's a dangerous profession, as most of your targets understandably don't want to be caught. You wouldn't have it any other way. You might have a code of ethics, never taking jobs that say target children or members of your own race. you might hunt down only escaped criminals, or you might be completely immoral, taking any job that comes along for the right price. Again, a lot of broad room for you to fill in your character, which I do like about these themes. You know, it's not like you're a paladin, you serve God and good.
Yeah.
You know.
Can I ask a question, Jaco?
Yeah.
Being the Star Wars fan that you are, and me being the Star Wars fan that I am, when you think of bounty hunter, does your mind immediately go to Boba or Jedha Fett?
Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Boba Fett.
Yeah,
100%. So actually, an ace pilot, I forgot to ask you, who's your ace pilot in the sci-fi world? I would have gone with Han Solo because he's a bit of a jack of all trades, and he flies the Millennium Falcon, and he does it, he does the Castle Run in less than 12 parsecs. You know what I mean? Yeah, me too. Han Solo's first comes to mind. Second that comes to mind for ace pilot for me was a little bit left field in Mass Effect. The pilot called Joker, the guy that's sort of disabled and helps command the Shepard is an ace pilot all the time. Is referred to a legend. And bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Trying to think of other bounty hunters. Obviously Mandalorian, I suppose. Yeah. So you get a +1 to Constitution. Does that sit well with you? How do you describe it?
It makes sense because for me, Constitution is all about like grit, hardy, making your way through the world type of thing. I think it works really well.
Yeah.
It'd be having a bounty hunter. I like how they use the wording of like, you can have like an ethical dilemma or not. Like it's really, and again, it will be kind of fleshed out on how whether you're like chaotic neutral or whatever else it is, or I wonder.
That's right.
That's
right. Your alignment. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I've got a word blank. Your alignment will play a large part into what type of bounty hunter. And in this as well, I think let's say you're down on your luck, you don't have enough money. I feel like there's more room to go to the dark side and back, like take on contracts on a distant planet to kill people that you might not usually kill and come back to this other planet that doesn't know what you've done on this. I feel there's more grey area in this world for some reason, whereas in the D&D world, and maybe that's just my own limitation, and also I'm subject to our adventures, right? Like I said, I don't have time to do a lot of homebrew missions, Jackal. So, it's all, if all the adventures that I buy are save the space station from an alien invasion, or save the town from if that's going to be the case, then maybe there's not that much gray area. But it's up to me, it's up to the GM. But again, I don't have that much time to do homebrew, so I hope that the adventures that we buy have got some room in them to go into this gray area and not always kind of be the hero, if you will.
I'll try not to go too off the grid for you.
Thanks, mate. All right, let's see what the theme knowledge for the bounty hunter is, right? So your mind is this is at first level, your mind is a cold steel trap when it comes to scraps of information about the creatures you're tracking down. Choose a specific sentient creature that you can identify by name or the alias, or specific identity to be your mark. Reduce the difficulty challenge of culture or profession checks to recall knowledge about your mark, as well as to recall knowledge about law enforcement individuals and practices by 5. Again, you get a -5 to difficulty challenge, right? That always seems to be the theme of the first level theme, if you like. So if you choose a mark that is known only by an alias or secret identity, this ability helps you learn facts only about the identity you know about, not any other unknown identities. Once you defeat your mark, as an action that takes 1 minute, you can study dossiers and database information about another individual to be your new mark. You can instead abandon your mark for a new one without defeating it. But if you do so, you take a -2 penalty to all skill checks for 1 week. Wow. For 1 week, all skill checks. Okay, survival is a class skill for you. Though, if it is a class skill from the class skill, blah, blah. So survival you get as a class skill, and there's some advantages to having skills as a class skill. We'll get into that later, but it's a good thing. So themes give you they include a skill under your class skill. So when you choose your class, you get a range of skills that you're probably proficient in or something, and the theme gives you an additional skill, right? The Ace Pilot gave you a pilot skill. This gives you survival. So, I mean, you start off by just choosing someone. It can be anyone, right? And then once you've chosen someone, you get a -5 to the difficulty challenge for any culture or profession checks to recall knowledge about your mark. But once you want to change, you have to defeat, you're locked into that mark. This is interesting. You either have to defeat the guy or girl or whatever. If you don't defeat the guy or the girl and you're like, you know what, now this guy is my mark, for a whole week, it's like you're having mental, like you're having like problems with it. For a whole week, you're at -2. You're at -2.
Bounty hunter's bedroom, and he's going to have that, like, you know, like a board or like a detective's board, like a crazy person's board with all the strings and shit going everywhere.
Yeah. You get -2 to all skill checks for a week if you just want to switch marks. So there's a big penalty.
That's hardcore. That is, especially starting life as a level 1 whatever. You don't want that.
No. All checks. That is nuts, dude. That is nuts. I don't think skill checks include attacks, but it's, you know, everything else. So that's interesting.
I'd say a lot of you being a bounty hunter is finding out information, whether it be by force or by persuasion or whatever else.
Yeah.
You would want those skill checks. So that is huge.
Yeah.
That almost kind of makes me want to lean away from being a bounty hunter.
Okay, fair enough. I tell you what, it makes you want to pick your mark very carefully. Yeah.
That is true.
All right, at 6th level, you get the Swift Hunter perk, which is you know just how to ask around about your marks to gain information and insight in a hurry. You can use diplomacy to gather information about a specific individual in half the normal time, and you reduce the penalty for following tracks using survival while moving at full speed. That's very similar to some ranger stuff, I think. So you can track at full speed, which is good, I suppose, if you're pursuing someone, and you can now use your diplomacy to gather more information about your mark in half the normal time. So as the name alludes, I like to read the paragraph, Jocko, and then read the heading, right? Because it kind of just sort of reiterates it. So, Swift Hunter, you're reducing time and gathering information, and you're moving fast to get to your mark as well. So,
the time is of the essence. But that's interesting, right? Because diplomacy, when I think of a bounty hunter, I don't think of someone, and it's kind of, this is almost forcing you to think of it in a different way, because when I look at a bounty hunter, I don't look at someone as diplomatic, I look at someone as being forceful. So this is quite interesting that it would be like, hey, you know, you can sidle up to someone and be like, you know,
at a cocktail party, you know, in your fucking tuxedo, like, oh, hello.
You're not necessarily going to be this grit, like, you know, steel and spit person that's going to be like, give it to me, I'm going to break your hands. Or,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's going to be, that's kind of cool.
No, you're right, man. It does change your outlook on what bounty hunters can behave like. More nuanced bounty hunter can, So that's Swift Hunter, and Relentless at 12th level is you never seem to get tired, even when working longer and harder than everyone else in pursuit of your mark. It sounds like you, Jocko. You're pretty relentless.
Dog with a bone.
Some of your targets might even refer to you as tireless ghost or an all-seeing hunter. You can walk or otherwise be active for 12 hours instead of 8 before needing to attempt constitution checks for a forced march. So you get, okay. And you can hustle for 2 hours a day during overland travel instead of 1 hour, reducing.
2 hours of hustling is pretty crazy.
Yes, it's intense. It's an intense workout. It's like 2 hours of mumbo jumbo, whatever that aerobics thing was called. I forgot.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
So it kind of fits in with the Swift Hunter again, doesn't it? Like it makes you able to. You're just relentless. You can walk for probably you can walk for twice 2 hours instead of 1 hour. Not walk, but hustle, which probably means at a faster speed. And you can walk for 12 hours instead of 8. So it's all about pursuit. Go on. Sorry.
Do you think then, my apologies, do you think as part of a group that would hinder you? Like, because basically you would almost want to go out by yourself to do a lot of this stuff, right? Otherwise,
very valid.
Because let's say you're with someone that can only do like 8 hours or 6 hours, or
like me.
It'll be interesting to see whether or not you as a bounty hunter split from your group and decide to do all these other Lone Ranger shit, or whether or not you go, because obviously I wonder if you need like half the sleep, or it'll be interesting. That's all. I think that's going to be an interesting one, because otherwise it's kind of like a waste of talent.
That is so true, dude. That is so true. And I think, to utilize Relentless and to utilize Swift Hunter, you have to say adios amigos to the lazy, mechanic and the lazy icon that's kind of partying with you. Yeah, that is such a valid point. So again, guys, so every 6 levels with the theme, every 6 levels you get some sort of a perk. So first level you start off with 1, 6, 12th and 18th. So 18th level, God knows if anyone can survive to 18th level. Your relentless, you get the Master Hunter perk, which is your relentless pursuit of your mark, steals your determination and can renew your inner reserves of strength. Once per day, while in pursuit of your mark, you can review current information about your mark for 10 minutes to gain 1 resolve point.
Again with the resolve.
Yeah, 18th level, man. It's all about resolve points. That's how important it is. And how hard. I mean, how do you even get to 18th level?
It's almost like you have to be realistic. Am I going to survive to 18 as well?
Yeah. So with Master Hunter, you're pursuing your mark, right? And what you can do is you can stop and for 10 minutes open up your little database on your computer and read more fun facts about your mark, and that gives you more resolve. You're like, that motherfucker, I'm gonna get him, So that's how I role play the Master Hunter. So you can review current information about your mark for 10 minutes to regain 1 resolve point. How often? Once a day. Okay, once a day. So that wraps up Bounty Hunter. The next ones are really, to me, I'll tell you why I think this is different to Folk Hero, man, but it's the icon. Let's have a read of it. So thanks to interstellar transmissions and drift travel, the galaxy is smaller than ever, and this connectivity has facilitated your ascension to celebrity. You might be a famous performer or a celebrated scientist, but either way, you get recognized on the packed worlds and in associated systems. Your reason for traveling to unknown worlds might be to further spread of your acclaim or to escape the limelight. So, what do you think of the icon, man?
It's interesting how it says of your iconic profession, right? So, to me, if you look at an icon, if you're into movies, you might think, movie star's an icon, or if you're into science, it might be, Stephen Hawking, or if you're into accounting, it'd be whoever the fuck the accounting person is. But you know what I mean? So it's interesting that it's almost like you're an icon in your line of profession or your field, your line of work,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. So it's kind of been like, hey, you don't necessarily have to be a celebrity. You can just be like, Joe Blogs from next door who invented Google, and now you're fucking huge. Like,
Yep.
that's kind of cool how they've done that. And then, but see how it's like you're hooked in deeply to cultural, like the culture of your iconic profession. So you're kind of like, it almost might seem that you might have tunnel vision for some of the things too, because if you're going to role play that character, if you're used to a certain level of, let's say you are, for whatever the equivalent of a movie star in this universe is, or like, whatever else, you might be accustomed to a certain way of life. And then if you're with your ragtag band of people, it's like, fuck you, I'm not going to walk 12 hours a day. I'm only going to work or walk 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
That might create a bit of a rift as well. So it'll be interesting how that kind of plays out. And then, like, see again, it says to check with your chosen profession skills. So you're obviously going to choose a profession, and then within that, depending on where that is. So let's say there's a profession that is a diplomat or something like that. You could really use that to help the bounty hunter to do something else. Or if your profession is in computer hacking, because I know there's a lot of computer hacking stuff in this, you might be like, you might be a hacker of international acclaim, and then even the very mention of your name might freak some people out, which is kind of cool. Like, yeah.
I agree. I really like the broad, like at the beginning we thought maybe these themes would stereotype you, and obviously like Ace Pilot kind of does a little bit, but with the bounty hunter and with the icon, it really leaves a big broad spectrum of where you want to fit within that framework.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
This is a really interesting theme, man. Yeah. I think this makes for a lot of fun. The icon, it really does.
And I think it allows you, the DM, and me, the player, to really explore and go anywhere you want. It is truly a game of imagination and in the mind. A collective narrative.
Yeah.
That even if you are running off book, it will be quite interesting. You're only as good as how creative you are as a person playing that character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be kind of funny. Yeah.
All right, so first level, again, a theme knowledge like they all get at first level. All these themes at first level give you knowledge, because you haven't got experience yet in the world. You've got knowledge, right? You've kind of just graduated from university. So you choose a profession skill. You are hooked deeply into the culture of your iconic profession. When attempting a profession or culture check to recall knowledge about other icons. And let's just talk about a check, just for those people that might not know. A check is essentially, there's something that the player wants to do, let's say jump over a chair, and the Dungeon Master allocates a difficulty challenge. It's usually a number between 5 to 20, and you roll the dice, a die 20, and you add your skill, and if you get equal or above that number, you're successful in that action. If you get below that number, you're unsuccessful. So most of these theme knowledge give you a -5 to the difficulty challenge. So something that was a 20 becomes a 15. Something that was 15 becomes a 10. But anyway, Jekyll, we've moved on to the level 6 perk, which is celebrity. This is, again, this icon theme's crazy, man. So you are now famous, right? You're famous enough that pretty much everyone has either heard of you or can quickly find information about you, right? Get this.
Your Twitter account is blowing up, essentially.
Yeah. So it's a DC 10 culture check to recognize your name, right? So you're speaking to any character, bro. If you tell them your name, they can roll the dice and they'll go, I know who you are, X, Y, and Z, right? And
that's pretty huge in a huge universe.
I know. It's fucking huge impact on which way conversations go. Huge. They might be your fan. Like you might be like, you might, it might be an enemy, and then he's like, "I'm your number one fan, sir." Like, it's crazy. And a difficulty challenge of 20 culture check for someone to recognize you out of context from your appearance alone. So I would almost take that as you just walking down the street and stuff.
Oh my God, it's you!
So among those who follow your iconic profession, you've built up both fans and detractors due to your celebrity. If you're looking for a generic person, like for example, a doctor who can treat this disease, you can almost always find one who's a fan and whose attitude starts as friendly or helpful to you. This takes 2 die 4 hours at the GM's discretion. Fans might give you services for a discount or even for free.
So that's really interesting, right? There's a couple of things there. First of all, the 2 die 4 hours. So obviously, the way I read that you roll 2 die 4, and then let's say you roll a total of like 6. You do 6 hours worth of that. That's how long it takes you. Is that how you get it?
Yeah. So if you were, so this is already my DM mind. So if you were somewhere reasonable and you were looking for someone, right, not in the middle of nowhere in space on a spaceship with just you and me, if you were in a city or an outpost or something and you needed some service, right, something, I don't know what it is, something, food, water, to buy something, to, like this says as an example, to a doctor to help you, you roll the 2 die 4 and it will take you that many hours to find a fan that will pop up, whether you're even tweeting this stuff out or whatever. It takes 2 die 4 hours for a fan with that service to say, "Hey, Fortis, I'm your number one guy. I've got this for you," and you're like, "Thanks, fan. I'll sign your chest. I'll sign the back."
I like the detractor things as well. Like you might get someone who's like, pretending to be a fan, but ends up being like your stalker.
Yeah, a detractor. He hates your work. So whatever industry you pick, we'll have to think about. Maybe if you're a scientist, there's people against your science.
Disproving your theory. That's what it is.
It's disproving the theory. You know what this reminds me of a little bit? The Bard.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit of the Bard, because...
But never have we been in a situation where you've walked into a tavern and then you've started strumming a tune and everyone's like, "Get off the stage." Everyone's like, "All right, sweet."
Yeah, I mean, one of the perks of the entertainer is any town I go into, provided I play some music for them, I get free lodging and food, which is a free service. This icon is similar to that, except it's even more broad. You can look for anything. So yeah, it's really awesome. At 12th level, you get what's called the mega celebrity. So your reputation. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, this kind of reminds me of like the Fifth Element and like Rudy, and he's just like he's just getting that type of, and he's like when he's talking to Corbin Dallas and Bruce Willis and he's like, "Hey, blah blah blah," and then he's like says 2 words. He's like, "You're killing me, man." It's just been like I look at that as kind of like the space universe style of like it is nuts and like you're getting to that kind of level where you're just like, there's a lot of hype around it. It seems like I'm even getting a bit excited talking about it. It's kind of cool.
Well, dude, that's a perfect character for, like, if I was going to ask you who's a sci-fi icon, that's it, right? That character that you said is the number one.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Or maybe the blue lady that sings in the Star Wars.
Man,
the opera singer. Yeah, she's an icon. I mean, it's one thing being famous on one planet. Imagine being famous across multiple species and shit. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, Anyway, let's see what Mega Celebrity does at 12th level. Your reputation grows to a point that your name is ubiquitous. The difficulty challenge of culture checks to recognize you is reduced to 5. So they got to just roll over 5 and you're immediately recognized.
That's pretty rad.
Or 10. to recognize you out of context from your appearance. So if someone's walking down the road, they've got to just roll a die 20 and get 10 and above, and they're like, oh, there's Fortis, look at him go. And it only takes 1 die 4 hours to find a fan who meets a generic description. In addition, fans give you a 10% discount on purchased goods. That's not much, really, 10% discount, but okay.
No, but then if you're talking actually, I don't mind that so much because, I mean, let's say you go onto a convention or something and everyone gives you free shit. That might be something, right? And that might be something that you as the DM, if I am one of these people, when I go, hey, I've just gone to, we stumble across a fan convention or like a supernova or, a PAX or something like that, right? In the multiverse that we're in, or the universe that we're in. And then, we might get a bit of free swag. But then if you're going into, you look at how much stuff costs even to get in D&D, like splint armor. Like, that was a couple of hundred coins? You're never going to get that. But then when you get to that level, you're going to be paying some high-priced shit. So I would be thinking, if you're paying $1,000 and you get $100 off or something, that's a lot of coin, man, or whatever they use.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because you're a mega celebrity, you're buying big ticket items. Also, because you're a mega celebrity, they know you're rich, so why would they drop their pants to give you discounts, right? You're meant to be rich, so...
Your fans are more likely to give you a pair of sunnies or something and be like, hey, wear that. But it would be quite interesting, right, if you, depending on how you build your character, you could bargain and be like, you could become you're like, I'll wear this spacesuit, but and then you get branded.
Yeah, advertising. I can see you selling your ass right now, Fortis. I can see you doing that right now.
You're getting you're getting all the sponsors, you know what I mean? It's hilarious.
All right, so that's at 12th level. So again, guys, with these themes, you get something every 6 levels up to level 18. So there's 4 of them. Is that right? Did I do my maths correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's 4 perks that you get from the theme that you choose for your character. In addition to the 4 perks, every theme gives you a buff to a stat. So +1 to charisma, Jackal, for icon makes perfect sense, right? You're a charismatic person.
Yeah.
Okay, at 18th level, if you happen to survive to level 18, Master Icon. So up to twice per day, you can interact with the public about your profession, usually during some sort of a performance, such as a concert or a press conference if you're a scientist or something, whatever, right? For a total of at least 10 minutes, and you can recover 1 resolve point. So again, these resolve points, we don't know yet because we haven't gone through all the rules yet, but resolve points seem to be very, very important in this game, because you got to get to 18th level, and then you got to spend some time doing something, and you can recover 1 resolve point. So in the case of a Master Icon, you hold a press conference or you sing a song and you get resolve, right? So yeah, that's the Master Icon, man. A really, really exciting theme. I mean, it's if you want to roleplay this, Jocko, you gotta get hyped to play the icon. You gotta get into it.
It'd be quite funny, right? You wouldn't want to let it go to your head, because you can imagine if you're this type of person. But can you imagine if you're with a bounty hunter, right, that's trying to find someone who's don't be a distraction, or you walk into there, and you're there, and then the bounty hunter's right next to you. You're oh.
Yeah. It's definitely gonna test the dynamics of a party, having an icon and a bounty hunter in the same party.
Go that way, it'd be hilarious.
All right.
Very cool, man.
Very cool. All right, next theme is the Mercenary. So I'll just read the paragraph that describes the Mercenary at a high level. So, whether you take jobs that match your ethical beliefs, or you fight for anyone who can afford your services, you're a hired gun. You might take pride in your past accomplishments, proudly displaying trophies of your kills, or you might be laden with guilt over being the sole survivor of a mission gone terribly wrong. You most likely work with other mercenaries and are familiar with the methodologies of military actions all across the galaxy. So see you later, Proxy. Thanks for the raid, man. Catch you later, man.
Catch you later, Proxy.
That's interesting, Jacques.
The Mercenary. What's your take?
Well, I kind of find it really interesting that in the first line they talk about ethical beliefs, because when you think about a mercenary, right, there doesn't seem like, there would be much or any ethics.
Yeah.
But that's just my take on it. So again, it's, if you're a mercenary, are you like, a mercenary that's like, I don't know, like someone's killed your whole family, so you're out to get, one person, and then that's how like you get into it, or if you're like a street urchin that's kind of been raised in that way type thing, or if you're just out for number one, right? So again, you're kind of looking at a character to me that's, you're a gun for hire, or a sword for hire, or whatever else. So like your alliances or allegiances, both, I think would be very interesting. But yeah, and then proudly displaying trophies of your kills. So that says to me that like you're a very, it might be something like that where like, maybe you have a whole lot of ears hanging off your neck. Like, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah. A necklace of ears. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's gonna be pretty interesting. But and again, if you are a hired gun, it's how much are you hired out for? Is it something like, hey, if you're going to do this mission, I want a point on top of whatever, the little prize at the end of the mission will be? Like,
yeah. How the contracts will be structured. Sorry, Kenny's got some questions here. So maybe like a background plus talents then, with multiple social characters in the same group. Expect game to go astray readily. Wowee. Exactly, Kenny. So yeah, it is like a background. It's like a background. It's like an upbringing. It's like what you've been trained in a way. And it works in parallel with your class. And we were just discussing like, would the theme or the class have more impact on how we roleplay characters? Is it a mixture of both? Is it? I think if I had Icon with any other class, the Icon would overshadow anything in as a class. But he also says the Mercenary could have a very strict code of ethics, but it's normally their own moral code, which may or may not align at all with the law. That's right.
That is very true. That is very true. I like that.
Again, these themes have a broad spectrum. I don't feel like any of it's being pigeonholed. So you can be an evil mercenary. You could be a guy that's down on his luck and needs money, and all he can do is shoot guns. So he's like, I need work, So and +1 to strength. Suppose I thought you'd be good at like shooting guns and stuff, which would be so strength in this game. I don't know, like I haven't read the whole rule book, guys, so I could be wrong. But strength is like melee attacks, heavy load, carrying a heavy load and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know +1 to strength, but yeah.
So are they like kind of saying, hey, you're going to be the tank? For lack of a better thought process there, and I think how they've leaned it towards, you've got some aspect of military training. So again, are you like proficient? I wonder if they have proficiencies in this like they do in D&D, or whether you
do. You do. When they say it's a class skill, when something's included in a class skill, you have some sort of a bonus for those skills.
So, but we look at this guy, right? He's fucking huge, and he's holding like a bloody, helicopter gun,
Yeah.
That's huge, right? So that says to me that they're like, when they were developing this is, hey guys, you're going to be the tank, and you're almost going to be the fighter of the group, and maybe
So maybe strength also gives you some sort of bonus or something in regards to heavy weapons. Maybe we don't know yet. We'll get to that. So maybe that does fit in with shooting something. I just thought shooting something, would be your thing. So maybe strength does play into heavier weapons and stuff. So first level theme, as always, is knowledge, right? Because you're inexperienced, you've just graduated from whatever you've graduated from. So it's not, it's always seems to be this knowledge. Yeah, so themed knowledge, you're knowledgeable about military, from rival mercenary groups to standard military procedures to planetary armed forces. And you can draw upon this fount of information to aid your adventurous pursuits. You can reduce the difficulty challenge of culture checks and mercenary checks to recall knowledge about hierarchies, practices, personnel, and so on in the military by fire. Your theme knowledge at first level as a mercenary, yeah, that's right, Kenny. Invasions don't tend to make people happy. No, they don't.
So stimulate them, and then that's fine.
Yeah. So as a first level character with this theme knowledge, you might be able to provide insight to, let's say you're up against, somewhere, you'll know how their military is structured. You'll know about their strategies as well. So I have to you can keep that in mind. You say, I want to know, you tell me as a dungeon master, what are their strategies, and I'll have to come up with their strategies so then you can, out predict them. But yeah, that's their theme knowledge. It's quite typical. So you get athletics as a class skill. Okay. So
Which is quite interesting with strength as well, because you would normally think one or the other, but no, it kind of works.
It's saying that you're strong and athletic, I think, as a soldier. So
yeah,
that's pretty good. So at 6th level, if you survive to level 6 as a mercenary, you get this perk, the Grunt. So you're used to long marches while carrying heavy equipment, and can hoist most machinery with ease. Treat your strength as 1 higher for the purpose of determining your bulk limit. But it's interesting, the Grunt it allows you to carry more, pretty much.
So, I mean, it's all relative, right? So if you're a small person, you're not obviously going to be needing the same amount of bigger stuff than bigger people would. So it could all be relative as well. It's just funny. It's just hilarious.
Oh man, it could be we might have be on a mission and we need to carry some object back, and we don't have that, because bulk limit in this game is a big thing. We might not be able to carry stuff until we drop our guns and drop our valuables. So I reckon it's going to become more valuable than we think.
It makes sense. Yeah. Again, it seems like if you want a well-rounded party, you'd almost want one of these guys with you.
Yeah. You definitely feel safer with them.
Yeah, 100%.
Kenny, this is basically you become bulkier. That's right. The head does not look like it really fits on the body. On the mouse, yeah, a little bit. They are a bit big-headed, actually. Alright, if you survive to level 12 as a mercenary, you get the Squad Leader perk, which is you are extremely skilled at coordinating with your squad, both because of your tactical efficiency and because of the respect that you command. If you are able to attempt the check in question, you automatically succeed at a skill check to aid another when assisting a squad member or other long-time ally, such as a fellow PC. Wait, let me read that. If you are able to attempt the check in question. Oh, the help rule in D&D? You know the help rule, Jackal? If you help me do something, we get advantage, right? In D&D, right? So I think there's a similar rule, right? But with a mercenary, if he's got the skill, let's say lockpick, I'm just picking fucking crap out of the air. Let's say you're lockpicking, right? And if he's got lockpick skill as well, if he chooses to aid you, an automatic success.
That's crazy. That is nuts.
So he's got to have the skill.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But it's still great. It eliminates the dice roll. Jesus, he's like a squad leader.
No,
he's
that's what I mean.
Come on, man.
You would almost plan it. So, for example, that you would want this guy to have hacking if there was a hacker there, because you could pretty much get into anything, anywhere.
In a way, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, he's a squad leader. He'll get you over the hump. Come on, man, you can do it. Press enter.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. Interesting.
In third, you carry your weapons of point. Yeah, go on.
One more thing as well. So this strikes me as a person, if you're going to be role playing this person as someone that would want to be a natural leader in the group.
All right, at level 18, you are like going from squad leader to commander. So you pull determination from your victories with your squad, no matter how bloody. After participating in at least 3 combats in a day, in which you defeat distinct groups of significant foes, you recover 1 resolve point. After participating in 6 such combats in a day, you recover a 2nd resolve point. So this is the first theme that we've seen that it's got the potential of recovering 2 resolve points in one day, but you need to be in a war.
Yeah, even just reading that made me feel tired, because I guarantee you, having that many combats in a day, one, you have to be so super overcharged and everything is just on point, right? Because I'm only going off my experience with D&D, but we're normally annihilated by the end of a combat, and I'm not talking about mentally in here. As a character, you're down to like 1 point, and then you know what I mean, like you lost a finger, something else has happened, blah blah blah, and you need to be, and I'd say if you're level 18, you're going to be going up against pretty hardcore characters. So it's going to be quite interesting if you're going to do 6 of those a day.
I know.
That's huge, man.
I agree. So, guys, for those that don't know, in these themes, you get these perks at every 6 levels. The first and the last perk are similar across all the themes so far. The first level theme is knowledge based, like you know about a certain topic, and you get a reduction in difficulty when you're rolling the dice for that thing. The last perk always has to do with getting a resolve point. We're not sure what resolve points are, except I know that they're very central to this Starfinder game. Like I said, we haven't finished reading the whole rule book, but resolve points, from what I understand, can be used to regenerate your stamina points, which is like your hit points if you like, so it can heal you. And resolve points are also used for specific skills and stuff that you get with your class, which we'll get into in future streams. So resolve points are extremely important. They're the little attribute that an adventurer has over a normal person. You have this inner resolve. And at level 18 with these themes, everything has to do with getting a resolve point or restoring a resolve point once a day. This is pretty hardcore with the Mercenary. 3 combats, like I said, you're right. Like Fortis, when we do 1 combat in D&D, it's like half the session, right?
Yeah.
You do 2 combats, you're definitely done for the day. So it's, you know, I'm not saying it's necessary it takes a long time, but how many scenarios are there that you have 3 combats in one day?
Yeah, the only thing that they might mean is that the number of characters in, like, let's say you come up against, like, you know, 5 bad mercenaries on a spaceship or something, or 6 of them, and they mean, like, but I don't read it that way. I don't know if it's just me, but yeah, it seems very unrealistic. Unless the fighting mechanics are very different in this game, and it could very well be. You just don't know.
Well, you know, the more I'm thinking about it, I think it actually might not be that bad. If I take 1 combat to be 1 engagement, right, and then we kill people in the room, right, and then we walk another kilometer down the passageway, and we engage another bunch of people, then that's 2 combats, right? And I think most of the adventures and stuff are going to be like that. Like, you're going to fight a group of people, defeat them, then move somewhere else in another room or whatever, and fighting up, you know, like in D&D, right? You go into one room, you kill a bunch of people, you go into another room, you kill a bunch of people. So that's 2 combats, 3 combats. No worries, Kenny. But yeah, that's right. Kenny's got a valid point. I also don't like slogging through combat. If every fight is important to the story, then fine. But random fights, I want limited. Yeah, that's very valid as well, Kenny. Balancing out just fighting shit all the time and story is a massive... Anyway, so that's Commander. So the next theme we're looking at is the Outlaw. Let me just read the brief description, Jaco, and you tell me your thoughts. Oh, actually, Mercenary. Who's a sci-fi character that comes into mind for Mercenary?
As far as a mercenary would go, Star-Lord as an example. That's, again, he's the first one that comes. I watched Guardians of the Galaxy not too long ago, so that's kind of why I've done that.
Is he a gun for hire?
Yeah, and the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of like, I'll do a bit of whatever, and he's out for himself.
Yeah.
Kind of, I don't know, maybe...
That's distinction between bounty hunter and mercenary, right? So mercenaries are like almost pure soldiers.
Yeah.
And I can't really think of I can think of soldiers, don't get me wrong, like the Marines and aliens, fucking stormtroopers, on and on and on.
Maybe the A-team?
The A-team? Mercenaries? Yeah, I suppose. That could be true.
They were like ex-special forces.
Yeah, that's true actually. You're right. No, they are mercenaries. They're not bounty hunters. They are...
I mean, they're not sci-fi, so I suppose. But...
I'll take it, man. A-team. That's great.
I pity the fool if you don't.
Yeah, Knight Rider is a bounty hunter. A-team are mercenaries.
Yeah.
Alright, let me read the Outlaw. So, due to the sins of your past or your current unlawful behavior, you are a wanted individual somewhere in the Pact Worlds. You might not even be guilty and are striving to clear your good name. You might not even be guilty, but you're striving to clear...
I wrote a point down on this because I was going to have a chat to you about it. This is nice.
Or you might fully admit to being a criminal but believe the laws you break are unjust. You stole a loaf of bread and the Empire is after you. Whatever the case, boarding a starship headed to the vast might be just the thing you need until the heat dies down or until you're dragged off to prison. Go ahead, Jaco. What are your thoughts on the Outlaw?
So, I mean, this says to me that the world that we are going to be living in is an unjust one, and that it's, do or die. But then when you are looking at something at this level, like, it's almost like, I almost look at it like Judge Dredd, where they have the mega cities where, like, the judges are, judge, executioner, and,
jury.
Yeah, the jury, everything. So, like, for me, it's kind of, wow, that's huge. Like, whether you're guilty or not, it's you're fucked, you're done, something. So that's really clear, right? But even if you do try and, strive to clear your good name, if you're already bad, or if you're already, like, being tarnished, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right? And so it would almost be harder for you to clear your name, so why would you bother? And then that's probably would kind of drag that way down, and I'd say the amount of work you'd have to do to clear it just wouldn't work.
Yeah. Agree, man. Like, this last bit for me is the indicator. Like, it's saying whatever the case, so whatever you choose from above, boarding a starship headed to the vast, which I assume is a part of the universe that's like the Uncharted Wilds or something, might be just the thing you need until the heat dies down or until you're dragged off to prison. So when you create this character as an outlaw, there's this heavy weight already on your shoulders that there is some forces that are coming after you. And as a dungeon master, I have to think about what that looks like, who that is, where that is, and all that sort of stuff. And everywhere that you go, are these people present? Will they recognize you? How are they going to recognize you? And there's just this huge load on your shoulders that you're putting on. So that's a crazy theme. as well. Imagine having an outlaw with a icon in the same party.
It'd just be like, but you'd almost need the icon to try and clear the outlaw's name. Like you could try and bargain your way through that stuff. Yeah.
So with outlaw, you get +1 to dexterity. Does that make sense to you, Jacob?
Yeah, it does definitely.
So there was another theme that gave you +1 to dexterity. That was the pilot, the ace pilot. All right, let's go to the first level perk for the outlaw, which is again a themed knowledge. So it's some sort of a information or knowledge that you've grown up with. So you are well connected to shadowy secrets and back alley deals, and you both know about key players and have handy skills of your own. Reduce the difficulty challenge of culture checks to recall knowledge about the criminal underworld by 5. Sleight of hand is this class skill for you, so you get the sleight of hand skill, which makes perfect sense. And you get +1 to dexterity. So that's pretty fucking handy shit. Like you've used that a lot in D&D. Like having.
I have. It doesn't always go that well for me though.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I suppose if you invest, I suppose points in sleight of hand, if you've already got a +1, and then you kind of beef that out a bit.
No. I meant your criminal connections. Because Fortis has got a half-orc fighter with a criminal background, which gives them a very similar type buff as this in regards to...
And it's been pretty good, although I must say you do have to do some crafty navigation work to make sure that you still seem above board in a chaotic neutral world that I am.
Yeah, so that comes in handy, having criminal... just knowing about the crime scene, I suppose, right? When you go into a city, an outlaw can make a roll, a difficulty check roll, -5 to the difficulty, and then he'll be able to enlighten you all on, this place is run by so-and-so, and his thugs have got this symbol on them, and there's the symbol over there, so watch out for them, or maybe we can go up to them and ask for help, or anything like that, right? So that's, I reckon, can come in handy.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
So that's at first level. At 6th level, you get the legal corruption perk. So your underworld contacts have serious pull with the corporations and the authorities and can get you out of just about any legal trouble, as long as you're willing to pay the right price. So depending on the severity of the crime, this can be anywhere between 500 credits times your character's level and 10,000 credits times your character's level.
So again, unless there's some type of mechanic here where you can find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or you can find a couple of gold stacks in a horse bag at the end of a manor, you're a bit of food. Like that's huge. Who has that type of money to spend? You'd almost need to do a bank heist or the equivalent of a bank heist to do that, which might land you in more shit.
It's definitely interesting. So somehow this legal corruption has to be, as a GM, right? This has to be an advantage for you somehow, right? So chances are you probably won't do a crime, Juckle. Like you won't go and murder someone, right? I know you. Like you're not going to just do that for the hell of it, right? But if you get caught doing something, it would this perk would have to make that less expensive. Like it would have to be some sort of advantage, right? So it'd be interesting. It's definitely interesting how, as a GM, you try and make this an advantage instead of...
Well, I mean, as a player, I'd probably want to do all my crimes at level 1 because, hey, at least, 1 times 500.
I know, right? Yeah.
You do 18 times 500, see you later.
Yeah. It's weird that it's level dependent, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really weird, man. It should just be what crime you did, really. If you massacred 100 fucking bunny rabbits, you should get hung. It's weird. At level 12, you get black market connection. So you have contacts who can move goods of all manner discreetly and quietly just about anywhere to nearly any destination you can imagine. Wow. You can sell goods in any city for their usual price. even if the goods are illegal or too luxurious for the locals to afford. Okay, so you can sell goods for the usual price, even if the goods are illegal or too luxurious. So you can, okay. Additionally, for 10% more than the usual price, you can purchase goods to be delivered to a remote drop-off point, possibly near an adventure location, in the same solar system as a familiar city. The delivery takes at least as long as the journey between the city and the... Okay, this is a crazy perk. You can get really creative with this.
Yeah, and I think where this will come in handy, that I've read a bit about how the fighting mechanics works, and then like if you have a gun, it's all done by like you've got like a battery charger, and you get like 20 lasers basically, or 20 shots, kind of like a quiver of arrows in D&D, right?
Yeah.
But then when I was doing a bit of reading, apparently there's a lot of situations where you're in the middle of combat and you run out of fucking bullets, or you run out of lasers or whatever.
Yeah.
So this would be a perfect example of, hey, before we go on a mission and we're in the middle of, fuck nowhere, let's get something dropped off and everyone can replenish their ammos and stuff like that, because there's not necessarily going to be a weapons, smith or whatever in that area. So that's pretty rad. That's really cool. Does make sense.
So that's level 12. Moving on to level 18, the last perk for the Outlaw. Probably going to do something about resolve points. So here we go. Organizing shady. So you're a master outlaw. Keep that in mind while I read this. Organizing shady plans is one of your specialties, and doing so is like a sweet shot of adrenaline. Up to twice per day, after you spend at least 10 minutes to plan a significant heist, a caper, or other crime, this doesn't count as resting to regain stamina points, and successfully complete at least one action towards enacting that plan, you regain one resolve point.
So again, even the fact that you only regain one resolve point must mean that these resolve points are like real
gold.
Yeah. Wow.
So this is what's got me stumped, Jocko. It says, so you got to come up with a plan. Like, that's some crazy role-playing shit, right? That's great. That makes the character really think like an outlaw. Like, you have to come up with a plan to do something, steal something, kidnap someone, whatever, right? But this is what gets me is if you successfully complete at least one action towards enacting that plan. So maybe if you're like,
yeah, that might be, hey, go pick up the costumes for the heist we've got to do for the security guards that we're going to look like to get into the bank.
Okay.
That's what that says to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, you know what the cynical side of me says for a player? You're not going to do this, right? Because you're a cool player. But like, imagine a player is like, all right, Maz, I'm going to plan to fucking rob that bank. And you're like, okay, so I'm going to put a rope. I'm going to drop a plan. I'm going to put a rope up and climb on the roof. Okay, you happy with that, Maz? I'm like, yep, I'm happy with that. And he's like, okay, so as my first step, I'm going to go scout out the bank, right, around it. So I walk around it once. I come home, I get the resolve point, and then tomorrow he wakes up and goes, fuck the plan, I ain't doing nothing. Like, like it can be
you as the DM to also, because there's nothing to say that you can't put your own rule in that if you don't follow through, you take away the result.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting way to get one. So this perk really, like, it's you're staying in the criminal world.
Yeah.
You're staying.
That's it. You ain't traveling with no icon, put it that way.
Yeah. Anyway, next theme is the priest. There's a lot of religion in Starfinder, man. A lot of religion, from what I can tell.
Yeah, so it's interesting whether the priest will go back to what we were discussing in that first part, whether it would be like a particular god or many gods, or whether or not like they're going to be like demigods, deities, whatever, and whether or not they really give them magic or whether they give them holy ability.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think as we read this, we'll find out. And I think there is a deity section in yeah. There a heal stick. It looks like this guy's got a heal stick there, Kenny. Definitely. Look at him. He's definitely got a heal stick with a big gem. So let's read out.
Because he's got a bit of style on his thing.
Yes, he does have a matching gem. He's a typical priest. He's rich. You are a member of an organized religion or similar association. So you don't even have to be a religion. You can be some sort of fucking cult, or I don't know. A cult is a religion. So what's a similar association? Chess club. I am a priest of chess club. Yeah. Your belief, whether it has been a part of you since childhood or it came to you later in life, is an integral part of your character. You might travel the stars, proselytizing your deity, or your church might have sent you out on a specific holy or unholy mission. No matter what obstacle life puts in your way, you always have the conviction of your beliefs to fall back on. Interesting.
So, proselytizing, the action of attempting to convert someone from one religion, belief, opinion to another. So essentially, you're a prior.
I wonder how that would play out amongst inter-party members. Is this guy always just trying to convert his fucking party members until they kill him?
Yeah, and then, does he get, points if he does convert?
Yeah, his religion must, that's interesting, yeah.
And what's his KPIs, mate? What's his percentages?
What's his sales figures? Depending on the religion, I would say yes. Insect priest lays his hand on a tree, makes a fancy arm motion with his other while preaching. If you were a beetle, you would be home. Interesting. I do like the fact that there's religion and priests. I was thinking of the priest. I am thinking it's just it's an interesting dynamic in a sci-fi universe. I didn't expect to see the priest in this, but
I'm almost because of the way that this thing is they must convert you. To me, the priest already comes across as someone that's arrogant. So they're standoffish towards them straight away. It's pretty funny, man.
Yeah.
Whereas you're not feeling with Balin, your character who's like a cleric.
Yeah. Alright, let's see what it gets at first level. Again, some knowledge. So you choose a deity or a philosophy whose alignment is within one step on either the good, evil axis or the law chaos axis. So what this is, Jocko, there's a matrix of your alignment, right? So when you choose lawful good, you're positioned somewhere on this grid. Okay?
Yeah.
So what this is saying is you can choose a deity or a philosophy that's alignment is one step sort of apart from you. So if you're lawful good, you don't have to choose exactly a lawful good god. You can choose...
you can be lawful neutral or something.
Yeah. So you choose a deity or a philosophy, so you reduce the difficulty challenge of culture and mysticism checks to recall knowledge about religious traditions, religious symbols, and famous religious leaders by 5. Is that across all religions, or is that just your religion?
It doesn't say yours specifically, so I read that at all.
Yeah, actually, religious symbols, yeah. Mysticism becomes a class skill. Not sure what mysticism is, but it becomes a class skill, so you get that as well, and you get +1 to wisdom, which makes sense. To you?
Yeah, and wisdom, to me, wisdom... I'd almost want to see, I haven't seen a +1 to intelligence yet, but to me wisdom shows of someone who has a broad mind, whereas intelligence can be, you'd also think slightly more, but yeah, wisdom, it does make sense, yeah.
at 6 levels. So if you survive to level 6,
Mantle of the Clergy.
the Mantle of the Clergy. That's right. So you've reached the rank of authority in your religion. Typical lay followers of your religion have a starting attitude of helpful towards you.
You're laying hands, Jaco, everywhere.
And will often provide you with simple assistance on request due to some combination of adoration, respect, or fear, depending on your religion. And even other clergy must give your opinions due consideration in matters of disagreement. You gain a +2 to diplomacy and intimidate checks against lay followers and lower ranking clergy.
I love this, Jaco, because you would think that, hey, how about maybe persuasion? But no, it's diplomacy and intimidation checks.
Yeah.
You will burn in hell unless you do what I say. It's not you will go to heaven if you help. You don't have to sing songs about me, but it'll go a long way if you do, if you catch the fucking drift.
Yeah.
I love this, man. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Intimidation and diplomacy. So politics and intimidation is the priest's tools, not the... You know, that's what I mean. Wisdom would mean persuasion, right? You'd be a wise guy, but now this is intimidation and thing.
So that almost lines up with my feelings of this guy being arrogant, or this line of thing.
It does. Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Kenny's also saying, well, also in fantasy games, the gods' powers are shown directly through the priests. It's not really belief so much as simply siding with a powerful being. That's correct. So, like, priests and clerics are scared of the ones higher up the chain. Yeah. That's at level 6. At level 12, you get the Divine Boom. So your deity grants you mystic power. So no matter what you choose, Jaco, if your class is not a spellcasting class, right? But you choose priest as your theme, you will get a fucking magic power provided you survive to level 12.
But if this happens, right, that means that you need to be... Like, let's say you don't choose a smart character, you choose like a character that's not very intelligent. It'll all depend on the mechanics of the game, I suppose, when we look into it. But like, if you do that, you might only ever be able to have a level 1 spell or something or like that. But if you choose like a fighting class type of person, and then you have this, it just, I mean, depending on, look, from when I had a quick scan over the spells the other day, there is like hundreds, so it might be alright.
Yeah, you might be able to pull out a helpful healing spell. Laying hands, exactly. A good healing spell or something, So anyway, you do finally break through to your god, and he gives you a choose one first level mystic spell with some connection to your deity's portfolio, subject to my approval. If you have levels in the mystic class, you gain 1 additional first level spell per day and add the chosen spell to your list of mystic spells known. Otherwise, you can use the chosen spell once per day as a spell-like ability. So yeah, you get a spell. It's interesting though, isn't it? You can choose like a non-spellcasting class and then be a priest as a theme, and then finally you can cast a spell. Indeed, it's divine.
This one has had the best headings by far, I'm just saying.
The true communion. What's a communion? Is that where you eat the bread and the...
Yeah, that's where you take on well, at least in Catholicism, you take the bread of... The bread represents the body of Christ and the wine represents the blood of Christ, but yeah.
So up to twice a day, after performing a significant action strongly aligned with your faith's dogma, you can spend 10 minutes in deep meditation or prayer to regain a resolve point.
Wow.
Up to twice a day? After performing a significant... Wait, can you get 2 resolve points?
Well, you must be able to. But mate, when you think about it, right? if you're this high up in the clergy or whether you're a Buddhist monk, whether you're a priest, whatever you're doing that, you're Muslim, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're praying a lot. So this to me makes sense.
All right. Well, that's the priest.
That's interesting.
It is. It's an that was also quite an interesting. I wouldn't say it's interesting if it was a fantasy game, but for me, it's interesting in a sci-fi sort of scenario playing a priest. I think I kind of find that quite interesting. The next one is a scholar. So you're an erudite intellectual. I don't know what that means. Pitting your brain against problems and puzzles that others would find daunting. You might be an instructor of a specific topic at a large university, or a dabbler in a number of fields of study. You could be exploring the galaxy in search of ancient artifacts or new scientific phenomena. Whatever your motivation, you are sure that the answers you seek are out there.
So, Jaco, an erudite is an adjective having or showing great knowledge or learning.
Right, okay. Okay, that makes sense. +1 to intelligence makes perfect sense for a scholar. We don't even need to get into that. Do you have any... Wait a second. Do you have any sci-fi priests? We're going back to priests. Do you have any sci-fi priest characters that you can relate to or know of? I can't... Let me just think.
Religious, yes, not priests, I suppose. Well,
I mean... My mind is flashing to 1,000, like, you know, Star Trek, the original series, like when they land on a planet and there's some dodgy, like, cult on that planet with, like, attractive women and Captain Kirk gets stuck in there.
Yeah, so the Ori in Stargate?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
No, I haven't seen Stargate.
Yeah, so they've got, like, there's a whole lot of religious priests and they're very much, like, they end up being possible, but... They end up being cross gods, but this might have to be for another podcast because it's actually quite interesting their terminology of what dictates a god versus, you know, what is a god, what is not, and then what is a priest for it as well. But so definitely the Ori and priest from like the comic books.
Oh, I haven't read that, but yeah, okay. So anyway, scholar. So +1 to intelligence. At first level as a scholar, you get your themed knowledge. Again, all the themes that you pick at the first level get some sort of knowledge. So you're an expert in one particular field of study and your passion for subject shows. Choose either life science or physical science chapter. So these are two skills, right, in this game. Life science or physical science. And then choose a field of specialization. If you pick life science, you can specialize in bioengineering, biology, botany, ecology, genetics, xenobiology, zoology, or other field of biological science. If you pick physical science, you can specialize in astronomy, chemistry, climatology, geography, yada yada yada.
So, this is where being a novice player in this game, I don't think I think this is where this shows that you need to do your reading on the lore of this game, because the way I liken it to is then, you know, when Bartleby chose his, like, for his ranger, he was like proficient in grass or in like grasslands or whatever it was, and the whole time we've been playing he's come across like one set of grasslands. I feel like this, if you chose, like, you might think, oh yeah, genetics seems like awesome, but that might be a very small part of it. So depending on how you chose this, I think if you were even to look at this character, you would have to do an extreme amount of pre-work to do it properly.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. That's such a great point. Like, I don't know anything about genetics as the dungeon master. You know what I mean? Like, if you say to me, I know about genetics, I mean, it'll be such a niche situation where you would use this theme knowledge. Such a niche, if at all, I think, if at all. I'm just trying to look at one. I mean, What? Like geography or something? You could like look at the landscape and go, oh, maybe there's going to be a lake on the other side of the mountains because of the formation of these mountains, yada, yada, yada. I don't know, but there's not much. Climatology, Jacko, you can be a weatherman. Yeah. It's 20% chance rain tomorrow.
Space weather, who knows? But yeah, does that mean you can go through an asteroid field and you can kind of know what's going to go through? I don't know. This to me seems like you would really, if you were to choose well, just study,
Yeah.
Which, you know what? It goes as part of the scholar. Maybe it's a bit of a, hey guys, if you want to be a scholar, it's get your shit together and be a scholar.
You'd have to enroll in a course, Chuck. What are you doing here? Well, I'm playing Starfinder and my character's a scholar, so I had to enroll in this course. Is there any way we can fast track this? Because my game's on fucking Saturday. Sorry, Kenny. I don't know much about genetics. I have done some research on mutations and a few other things, but that's spotty. Oh, well, there you go, Kenny. You're further down the road than we are on genetics, so there you go. All right, so we agree that for a scholar, first level theme knowledge is probably the most useless so far out of all the themes. Let's see if it gets better. At level 6, you get another perk. Remember, every 6 levels until level 18, you get a perk from your theme. Sometimes, tip of the tongue. What the hell? I'm just thinking, where is this going to go? Sometimes, after pausing to collect your thoughts, you realize that you know the answer to a particularly challenging question. Once per day, you can re-roll any skill check to recall knowledge. You must decide to use this ability after rolling, but before learning the information from your first roll, and you must take the second result. So this is for any recalling of knowledge, right? So if you want to recall knowledge on what the Mercenary does, like military shit, or if you want to recall knowledge on spaceships, what the pilot does, or religions, what any recalling of knowledge, you essentially get 2 rolls at it.
That's pretty crazy, but the whole point of it almost adds that whole element of luck into this, because if you roll the shitty dice, if you roll a D1, you're just sorry guys, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Alright, so that's tip of the tongue. Any knowledge check you get, essentially a second roll. At level 12, Research Maven.
I gotta say, they got some pretty interesting headings. I like it.
Yeah.
Keeps you entertained.
You can research much faster than most other people, allowing you to collect information from databases, libraries, and other sources in 1/4 the normal time. With this ability, you can typically take 20 to recall knowledge in 5 rounds. Do you know about this take 20, Jackal?
Don't think.
So this is a rule that's not in D&D.
I don't think so.
So you can, under certain circumstances or something, right? You can tell me I take 20. Take 20, right, Jackal, is an automatic roll of 20. Right? So you say to me I take 20. But taking 20 takes a certain amount of time. Right? So do you want to
So take 20 all the time as a player?
Well, it's only to certain things, it's not to attacks and stuff, obviously. It's only certain skills and stuff that allow it. And if you look at it, those skills are things that are it makes sense if a character sits down and takes his time to do something, he's automatically going to succeed at it. Yeah. So it takes time. And it's only with skills that it makes sense to, not leap over a wall or any acrobatic stuff or things like that, So exactly, if you want to search a small room in great detail, you can take 20, for example. Things like that, rather than rolling it and failing it, which is sometimes hard for a DM to realistically present to you. If you're in a small room with just a chair and a rug, and underneath the rug there's a trapdoor, right? And you're I searched the room. and you roll, and I'm like, well, you don't find anything, but it's just under the rug, you know, like
There's a lot of dust under that rug. All right.
yeah. So it's kind of like for those scenarios. So this is a unique. This is different to D&D, where you can opt to just take 20. So you can typically take 20 to recall knowledge in 5 rounds. Okay. So, wait, you can research much faster, so there must be some sort of a time to research in this game. So you can research 1/4 of the time faster, which is good. I'm just imagining, like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to, I don't know, trying to figure something out under pressure, you know, trying to figure something out under pressure.
Or if you're reading a book on like how to do something, normally, like depending if you wouldn't read it in a night, but maybe you could with this, you could be a speed reader. It's like that type of stuff. That's how I envision this thing.
Yeah. So that's Research Maven at level 12, and the final perk you get as a scholar, you're a Master Scholar. To you, learning and absorbing knowledge related to your field of expertise is as refreshing as drinking from a cool spring in the middle of a desert planet. Up to twice per day, when in a situation where information from your specialty field could be useful, you can spend 10 minutes in deep contemplation and research of your specialty field and recover 1 resolve point. In addition to using recall knowledge for the information you seek. This doesn't count. So that specialty field that we thought would be useless, like fucking genetics, if somehow it's useful to our adventure, you can resolve. Yeah. So again, a very narrow chance of that happening, I think. So there's some good things in the Scholar, but yeah. I like the tip of the tongue and the Research Maven, but yeah, the other two, the top and bottom perks, I think are very difficult to...
Well, I feel like this is the one character that if you're going to do it, research the fuck out of it and then see how you go. I think that's where this one's at, really.
Yeah. All right, the next one... we've got 2 more to go, Jacko.
Yeah, I'm good.
We're nearly there. We've got the last 2. So, the Spacefarer. Rumors are, I heard Fortis wants to be a Spacefarer, but we'll wait till the end until he tells us. So, let me just read what the Spacefarer does. So, the Spacefarer, your longing to journey among the stars can't be sated. You yearn for the adventure of stepping onto a distant world and exploring its secrets. You tend to greet every new opportunity with bravery and fortitude, confident that your multitude of skills will pull you through. Perhaps you simply find joy in the act of traveling with your companions, or perhaps you are just out to line your pockets with all sorts of alien loot. You know what sci-fi guys this reminds me of, Jacko? Captain Kirk and Lost in Space. The Spacefarers. There you go.
So this reminds me of a slightly more fantasy style, but Tasselhoff Burfoot from Dragonlance.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, because they get a bit of wanderlust, a bit of a, like, you know, they want to see the world, but then it kind of comes across as almost like a cross between a bit of a mercenary, a bit of a, you know, a fighter, a bit of this, bit of that, bit of the other, and then just hey guys, we're here and we're just going to have a bit of fun with it all. It's good.
Yeah. All right, let's go with themed knowledge. At first level, you get themed knowledge like you do with every other theme. So you're obsessed with distant worlds and you always mentally catalog everything you learn about new and strange places so you can recall it when you need it most. Additionally, use your knowledge of biology and topology to inure yourself to alien hazards. Reduce the difficulty challenge of physical science checks to recall knowledge about strange new worlds or features of space by 5. So you get a -5 like you do with all the other themes to a knowledge recall of strange new worlds or features by space. Physical science is a class skill for you. So you get the physical science skill. Though yada yada. So that's it. So you get physical science, and you get a reduction in difficulty of recalling knowledge for planets. I think that can come in handy. You know, when you go from one planet to another, she will know, like, hey man, that planet's like toxic, or it's not toxic, or you know, there'll be some valuable information, I think, that she will, you know, enlighten the party with. So that's not too bad. I'm not sure about the physical science as a skill. I'm not. These will come in handy. Sorry, go ahead.
Thing, whether it's physical science or the
life science, yeah.
Life science. It seems like it comes up quite a lot, right? So physical science is all about astronomy, chemistry, climatology, geography, geology, hyperspace, meteorology, oceanography, physics, field, and natural science. Like, fuck, for me, that's huge.
Yeah.
So, like, that's a lot, right? And then with that, it looks like, depending on how it works, it has a lot of interesting shit in there. Like, so for example, you can craft drug, poison, and medical, recall knowledge. It's insane, right? So, and that's different to life science as well.
Yeah. You got two sciences, physical science and life science skills. Each one of those sciences has got a range of topics that you can specialize in. So you said that it can help you with crafting, does it? So maybe these skills are more important than we thought. They're not just recalling knowledge. They actually help you in crafting and stuff. Okay, well that puts more weight on these skills. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I just thought they might be just limited to, you know, recall. Oh, I know about that, you know, or I know about this. But okay, if it's going to help in crafting, that's awesome.
That's something different. Yeah, 100%.
At level 6, you get Eager Dabbler. So in your journeys, you picked up quite a few tricks about all sorts of things, even if you haven't formally studied them. And you can often use this logic and intuition to your advantage. You get a +2 bonus to skill checks if you don't have any ranks in that skill.
That to me is incredibly huge advantage. I don't see any disadvantage so far with this character.
That's
Do you think
great.
it's overpowered?
No. That the bard, my bard has the exact same thing. I get a +1 or something, or I'm proficient in anything that I'm not proficient in or something. I forgot what it was, but you're a jack of all trades. It makes sense to me, man. You're like a person that goes into deep space by himself. Like you learn how to survive, you learn how to repair your ship, you learn how to make your gun work, all that stuff, you know. So as long as you don't have any ranks, you get a +2. I think it's great. All right, so you go from Eager Dabbler at level 6 to Jack of all trades if you survive to level 12. So you can do just about anything if you put your mind to it. You never let lack of formal instruction stand between you and a task that needs handling. You can use all skills untrained, even if you could not normally do so. And when you roll a natural 20 while attempting a skill check for a skill in which you don't have ranks, your bonus from Eager Dabbler increases to +4. So if you roll a 20, you get a +4. So that's, 24. Yeah. Jack of all trades. So that kind of fits in with what I was describing a spacefarer as, a guy that can. Yeah. All right. Master Explorer, level 18. Scientifically noting that even the tiniest details about a new place, including everything from apparent colors and incline grades to barometric, seismic, and other delicate readings, is absolutely invigorating to you, Juggle. Up to twice per day while on an unexplored planet, typically one that has no contact with the packed worlds. How the fuck are we going to be on an unexplored planet, Juggle? When are we going to be on an unexplored planet?
Well, to me, right, I feel like there could be a little how a planet might have like 8 moons or something like that. A sun might have like 8 or 9 little tiny planets around it or something like.
We have to go outside of this solar system. So you can spend 10 minutes exploring, mapping, and documenting a new geographical feature to recover 1 resolve point. You know what this is, Jocko? These other skills at the top are really strong. So they've made this Master Explorer one almost impossible.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. To balance out the character. Because you kept saying, do you think that's OP? Do you think that's OP? Well, maybe, you know what I mean? So they're balancing it out. Like, you got to be out. Okay.
But then I'm thinking realistically, like, again, and I'm only going off my thought process for D&D, but getting to level 18 seems like a feat unto itself. Like, I'm kind of like, if you get there, you're going to be into some pretty crazy shit regardless. So I'm like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Actually, you're right. I forgot that this is at level 18. So we would have been done with those adventure modules and onto some crazy other shit. So it makes sense, yeah. All right, that's the Spacefarer. And the next and final theme for tonight, guys, thanks for hanging out, is the Xenoseeker. So let me read the description. The thought of meeting alien life forms excites you. It's definitely Captain Kirk. The more different their appearance and customs are from yours, the better. You either believe they have much to teach you, or you want to prove you are better than them. Wow. That's like two polar opposite sort of things. Of course, the only way to accomplish your goal is to leave the packed worlds and travel to the vast, where a virtually endless number of aliens wait. Okay, again, that mention of this area called the vast. I think the vast might be the universe. Yeah. I
think that's because the packed worlds got torn away from the original universe. And they explain this thing. Oh, we'll go into it in the next one. But yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of crazy.
So Xenoseeker, any sci-fi person? Kind of. I mean, Captain Kirk.
You say Captain Kirk.
Doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, well, that's true, man. It doesn't. So.
Predator.
No, very good. Yeah.
Predator wants to teach them that they're better, right? The hunting of aliens. Hey, look at that. Came up with something. Alright, so first level, again, with this theme, you get a themed knowledge. You are trained to seek out, identify, and interact with alien life forms. So reduce the difficulty challenge to identify a rare creature using Life Science by 5. Life Science is a class skill as well. Anyway, so the Xenoseeker does what? You can identify rare creatures using a Life Science, so you get a reduction in... So rare creatures, Jack. Does that make you happy, or what?
Not really, because for me, it seems a bit counterintuitive for a first level person, because as a first level person, chances are you're probably going to start out on a rookie mission. And if you're like going into a rare creature, unless there's a lot of rare creatures in this universe, I'd say there's a lot of unknown creatures. I don't know if there'd be a lot of rare creatures. I'm skeptical, put it that way.
That makes perfect sense, dude. It's rare. So how often are you fucking meet it? So you're not going to use this skill very often. That kind of, makes perfect sense.
I mean, if you have one of your skills as zoology, and then like you're studying that, and you spend your time at the local zoo at fucking Planet X 2131, like, sure, that might be a rare creature, and you get, aside from that, you can just read the bulletin board. Like, it just doesn't really do it for me, man. Just saying.
I agree. I was hoping it would be more along the lines of, like, you know, the cultures and stuff of all the alien races.
Yeah, that would be, or at least something along the lines of, you know, you meet an alien race, and then you know the custom greet, like handshake. It doesn't have to be something crazy, but it's
don't shake that person's hand. They don't like to be touched. That type of stuff would make sense. This is just
Yeah. You kind of Xenoseeker. You want to, I suppose it's alien life forms. It doesn't necessarily mean sentient aliens, but okay, yeah. Anyway, level 6, you get the quick pigeon. Pigeon? Pigeon, okay. Ah, yes, the pigeon English. Yeah, pigeon language. If you don't share a language with a creature you encounter, you and the creature can spend 10 minutes attempting to converse. After which, you attempt a difficulty challenge of 25 culture check, which is hard. If you succeed, you formulate a simple pigeon language that allows basic communication. You can use the pigeon language with those specific creatures only, but you gain a +2 bonus to culture checks to create a pigeon language with similar creatures that speak the same language. Right, so it's only with the creatures that you're interacting with, you can communicate pigeon with them, but if their uncle walks into the room, you get a +2 culture check to do another roll of DC 25.
So far, I'd be interested to see if many people play this character. So far, nothing that's screaming to, like, at least with all the other characters, there's been a few bits and pieces that I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind being able to speak different languages. That's great, but it's very difficult, man. DC 25 is a very... I don't know, you got to roll 20s or something. Like, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure you can, boost your skills and all that stuff, but it's very difficult. Anyway, level 12 is first contact. So you know how to make a good first impression on new races and assuage their fears of the unknown. When meeting a creature that has never seen your race or any of the races of your traveling companions, if it would normally be unfriendly to unknown races, treat it as indifferent instead. This has no effect if the creature would be hostile, indifferent, friendly, or helpful.
So, again, this is awesome in very particular cases, because depending on what your race is as well, like, yeah.
It's very narrow, dude. You're right. Like, it's saying if this, it seems like there's different states of relationships. So unfriendly is a specific state, and then you've got hostile, and then you've got indifferent, and then you've got friendly, and then you've got helpful. So if they are hostile, indifferent, friendly, or helpful, this doesn't even come into play. But if they just happen to be unfriendly, then they become indifferent. Yeah. So it's very narrow, isn't it? Yeah.
Which, again, there might be some type of niche. And again, we don't know what we don't know. So then there's obviously a reason why they've created it this way.
Yeah.
But I'll be very interested, and maybe that will become clear when we're at level 12 and we need to speak to someone.
Yeah. I mean, again, guys, we haven't finished the whole rulebook either, so there's a lot of unknowns from our perspective. So I'm sure we're missing big chunks of information that could help us sort of... I mean, if it wasn't so narrow, this is great. I could imagine going somewhere and, they're suspicious, they're hostile, and the Xenoseeker comes out and, like, with a big smile, cools everything down and makes them friendly, It's great in concept, but the mechanics are very narrow. But anyway, let's move on.
I'll just get my icon friend over here to be like, hey guys, you want an autograph?
All right, the next one's Brilliant Discovery. Okay, this is going to be interesting. So up to twice per day. This is at level 18. This is the perk for the Xenoseeker. Up to twice per day, when you discover and document a new species of flora or fauna, you recover a resolve point. On an unexplored planet where every species is new, this process usually takes 10 minutes at most.
So I think more and more, as I'm hearing this particular character is for going off grid from day dot and going away from the adventure modules, and then it's for creative GMs and people that just want to do their own thing, maybe.
You're right, man. And Kenny's sort of saying the same thing. He's saying some of the abilities feel odd at best. I kind of know what they're going for. I just don't think they've handled it well. Again, not knowing everything about this, the systems and the world and stuff. I mean, obviously with the Xenoseeker, it seems like they're more of a freaking
like a cross between a mercenary / like
Spacefarer. Well, Spacefarer, like he's got to go and like go on an unexplored planet, unknown species, you know. So if you chose this, I would feel obliged to your character would be like, hey guys, forget about this mission to save the space station. We need to go 20 solar systems that way so I can discover a rare animal, like
something
yeah. Anyway, that is it, guys. That is
work for the king. You need to go back and do themeless.
Okay, yes, that's right. So we've done the Xenoseeker. We're just going to scroll back. There's the Spacefarer, there's the Scholar, there's the Priest, there's the Outlaw, there's the Mercenary, the Icon, which was very exciting, the Bounty Hunter, and the Ace Pilot. These are the 9 themes. But also this game has got themeless character theme. It's a themeless character theme. So if you don't fit neatly into any of these above categories, or you see yourself as a blank slate, see below for more information. Themeless characters. If you decide that none of the themes above fit your particular character concept, you can choose not to have a theme. You then gain the following benefits at the listed levels. A themeless character is considerably less powerful than a character with a theme, so choose this option with care. So, general knowledge, first level. You gain a class skill of your choice when you create a themeless character. Also, you gain an ability adjustment of +1 to any ability score you choose. So I'm comparing this to a themed character, right? So with the themed character, you get a set thing. You get +1 to dexterity if you're whatever. If you're a Ace Pilot, you get +1 to dexterity. If you're a Priest, you get +1 to wisdom. Yada, yada, yada. So with themeless, you get to choose what you get +1 to, which is good flexibility. You also get a class skill. So when you pick your class, guys, there's be a list of skills that are known as your class skill. You get extra bonuses to those skills, right? So when you pick a theme, you also get one extra skill that becomes a class skill. So far so good. You get a class skill of your choice. Again, great flexibility. Whereas when you pick the theme character, it tells you what class skill you get. You get +1 to any ability. Again, great thing. But what you're not getting here, correct me if I'm wrong, Jaco, you're not getting that -5 to recalling knowledge on certain topic.
Yeah, correct.
So to you, does that flexibility outweigh the themed knowledge or not?
Well, I kind of feel like it's like a random generator, although you're choosing it. Like, it kind of goes, well, if you don't like any of those things, but it's all just very, very generic, right? Like, so for example, you can gain a class, like all you're getting as a first level, you're gaining a class skill of your choice, which is lovely. But at the end of the day, all the ones that have like all your themes have some pretty like, some specific things that would probably help your missions or whatever you're doing. Whereas this, all you're getting from my point of view is an extra skill point, which may or may not help, or it may be, you know, just along your way to an extra point, but who the fuck cares really? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I'm happy that this rule's there. I don't want to critique this rule. This is great that it gives you the flexibility of not. I think role-playing wise, it kind of allows you to kind of build your own framework to role-play in as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. It's a good thing, but yeah, you lose out on at first level. You lose out on that -5 to recalling some sort of knowledge, but you gain the flexibility of choosing what skill. So maybe if you choose a class skill that gives you +1 to dexterity, I mean not a class skill, if you choose a class that gives you +1 to dexterity, you can keep increasing your dexterity by choosing themeless and adding another one to your dexterity. But you can do that with themes anyway. You can choose a theme that gives you +1 to dexterity, but then you might not like that theme. I understand why I think it's a good rule. It's interesting just to compare the two. So at 6th level, you get certainty, which is once per day before you roll a skill check, you can gain a +2 bonus to that skill for that check. That's not bad.
Yeah, because you could potentially do that for any
skill check. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get an automatic +2 to any skill, any roll for once a day. Extensive studies. So you can choose a skill that is a class skill for you. So you got to choose one of your class skills, and once per day you can re-roll one such skill check before learning that. So you get a second roll.
You get advantage essentially.
You get a second roll, yeah. Except no, it's not like advantage because you must take the second result, Chuckle. It's not like D&D. So if you roll less, you got to go with it, man. So
for a 12th level thing so far, pretty much all except probably 1 or 2 of the characters, all the 12th level stuff has been fucking amazing.
It's a reroll. Yeah. Oh, I think this is better than all the others, though, dude.
Yeah. Increase your result. I wonder if people take this just for that.
This is not bad. All the other ones, you got to fucking travel to an unexplored planet and look for a fucking vegetable under a rock, and then I've got my resolve point back. You don't even increase your resolve point; you just regain a resolve point. But this actually increases your resolve point by 1. So, steely determination. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
I like it, man. Dude, it seems very, very exciting, and I am keen as mustard.
Alright, man. Drum roll. It's decision time. We're writing this down, Jocko. You are to pick a theme for the character we will create, my friend.
I think I'm going to stick with my Spacefarer. I really feel like that is me, because I see parts of myself in that as well.
Spacefarer, okay, cool. Done.
What
Locked
about
in.
You, Chocoladas? Can I make a guess on something that you would be?
You can guess, yeah.
I think you would be a great icon. But at the same token, I feel like you might want to explore a priest.
It's funny that you say that. There's none of those were going to be my selection. But
oh wow.
But I can't actually. No, you're wrong. Like priest, actually, both those were in my like top 3. I was going to go ace pilot.
Okay. That, you know what? Every group needs a pilot, so I'm not upset about that at all.
So ace pilot and the Spacefarer, guys. That's our 2 themes. All right, guys. Thank you, Fortis. Very kind of you, guys.
I'm very excited. This is good.
So the next stream that we'll do, Jackal, will be races.
Yeah.
And our opinion on the races, and then we'll choose a race as well. But other than that, guys, thank you so much. This is goodbye from Fortis and Mozsta69, and bye for now, guys.
We will say Auf Wiedersehen because it means we'll see you again.
Bye for now. Good night, RC.